Hey guys, so in today's video, we're going to introduce our third market structure, which is an oligopoly. So starting with the characteristics of this market structure, we can sort of think of oligopoly as a monopoly with a couple more firms. So bringing in all the characteristics of a monopoly, and then just crossing out one firm and replacing it with a few firms. It is still highly differentiated with high barriers to entry and exit, albeit slightly less so than a monopoly. It's quite convenient because you still have to memorize these characteristics of the market structure, but it's more or less the same as a monopoly. An oligopoly is actually one of the most common market structures that we have in the real world. If you think about it, with things like the tech industry, you'll realize that most of the options you have are from a small handful of firms that control the entire market. A very important concept to introduce in an oligopoly market structure is the idea of interdependence. And it captures the idea that in an oligopoly with only a few players, you're in intense competition with each other and at the same time are reliant on each other. This is because any increase in one player's market share came from a decrease in another player's market share. So these players pay a lot of attention to the different choices and actions of the other players. So noting interdependence, oligopolies exist in two forms, collusive and non-collusive. Starting with collusive oligopolies. This is when there is collusion between the firms, where collusion means illegal cooperation. For example, if the firms in an oligopoly secretly got together and decided they will all increase their prices by $1 at the same time. Since the price of all firms increased, consumers can't switch to a cheaper alternative in response to a firm's price change, and all three firms end up making more money. This is anti-competitive and illegal to do. Essentially, these firms in an oligopoly are colluding and working together as one large firm. So a collusive oligopoly would function like a monopoly market structure. So you can actually use the exact same diagram for monopoly that looked like this and analyze it the same way as having neither efficiency. And it's quite convenient as we don't need to learn anything new. This is the diagram for a collusive oligopoly. If we look at collusion in a bit more detail, there are two types of collusion, formal collusion and tacit collusion. You need to know what each are, and formal collusion is like the example we talked about earlier. Firms gather together and explicitly agree to fix prices. And dropping two examples of formal collusion here, the illegal example where firms did this and got caught was the France perfume industry, which I think happened in like the late 90s. And these illegal cases where they got caught is the more common example. The less common but real example is where formal collusion happens in a legal way, which is when OPEC countries gather and agree to fix the price of oil. And this one is allowed because the price of oil is too important for the well-being of these countries. So that's formal collusion. Tacit collusion, on the other hand, refers to the tendency to follow the pricing of a dominant firm. So there's no explicit agreement, but let's say if the big player, sort of the leader in the market, Coca-Cola, sets their price at $3, then other soda companies just follow that pricing decision. So tacit collusion is more of an unspoken collusion, and it's sort of harder to identify, find, or punish because there was no explicit agreement happening. So thus far we looked at what an oligopoly is and what a collusive oligopoly looks like, which is basically a monopoly. In our next video, we are going to talk about non-collusive monopolies and what that would look like.